Hello and welcome back to IllumiNation, the Disney Lorcana podcast. My name is Max.
And I'm Sam.
And we are back at you. It's episode 43 this time. I bet if you listened to episode 42, you would have known that. Appreciate everybody who did. Appreciate everybody who's listening now. Even if you didn't, we'd love you too. Quick note about this episode. It's going to be a little bit more raw and unedited compared to our normal fare. So if this is your first ever dip into the waters of IllumiNation, welcome. Thanks for jumping in. And don't expect this level of roughness, lack of refinement. Normally, we're pretty good with editing everything, but we have a bunch of stuff going on, and we wanted to get an episode out, so we were stuck at this crossroads of episode out that's rough or no episode at all. We opted, since it's such a critical time right now, and we have a lot we want to talk about, to put out an episode that's a little rough. So apologies if you catch some ums and uhs, and I'm big on the kinda.
And breathing
noises, just general sounds from around. You might hear the air conditioner kick on or something. Apologies. Just wanted to mention that at the top of the episode. Appreciate y'all being here for this one, and we are talking about the new Fabled metagame. That is right. We have all of the cards now.
Yeah.
All 33 new ones, all of the reprints, we got it all now. We have perfect information. And I think the biggest takeaway, the biggest thing that has happened that I think was very much unexpected when it came to looking over the card pool is something's missing. Sam, what are we missing?
A board wipe.
Yes, so we're talking about something akin to be prepared. More so than we're talking about something like the one piece of mass removal we have. It's not the one piece, but it's the most significant piece, which is, of course,
Under the Sea.
Under the Sea. We also, to an extent, have the mob song. Kind of is multiple for one style removal. It's a tough card to make work. Do I think that it's a card we could make work? Sure. Absolutely.
Maybe.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one for sure. Could there be like some weird Ruby Steel song deck? Possibly. I mean, you have two of the best songs with Strength of a Raging Fire and possibly the mob song going on there. You have Be King Undisputed. Several songs. Ruby's starting to get more of those with the introduction of Powerline. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think the lack of a very clean, very just absolute and unconditional removal spell for the entire board means that the game pivots in a very interesting direction. So we can now, for a lot of cases, put things on the board, overload the board, and not have to worry about being punished for doing so. So that effect is pretty immediate, and there's been a lot of ripple effects coming as a result of that. So we really want to unpack a lot of those things and help give you some early takeaways from our testing and our impressions and the way we've watched things go so far for the metagame. So the most obvious is the one I just stated, right? Is you can overload the board and put down a lot of things and you won't get punished for it. So that immediately makes something pretty good. Sam, what's the archetype that becomes pretty good as a result of being able to just slap down things very quickly?
Aggro.
Yes, we definitely have seen a big impact immediately from aggro, and aggro is kind of out of the gate the public enemy number one. And we talked about this in episode 42, so I won't kind of bang that drum too much. But we have definitely seen specifically a big spotlight being shined on the amber steel archetype. Mm-hmm. We are seeing a lot of people really interested in play patterns like Daisy Duck on 1, the new Nala on 2, playing Tiana on 3, and then either a lady plus a card, a Pluto, or another Tiana, something very devastating. The most oppressive line to me has been the Pluto on 4.
Yeah.
Because then you can't challenge that gigantic Pluto very easily because of Tiana. So unless you have a piece of actual single targeted removal that can take out either Tiana or Pluto, it becomes very difficult to break up that pattern.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like we had the Tiana option before, so like why didn't we use her? And I think the answer is pretty obvious that, we had big Sisu running around. So now we don't have that card. So people are experimenting more with her.
Absolutely. I think an uninkable 1/4/2 that just instantly gets removed from the board very easily or swept up with a big Sisu, something along those lines, becomes a liability in the previous meta.
I don't think the little 1 or 3-drop 1/1 Sisu that gets rid of a 1 strength or less is that really that bad when you're not going to be seeing that big one shifted anymore.
Right. We're not too afraid anymore. I think that there is some play pattern and implications with the little Sisu, but I think that it answering Tiana is nice, but then you don't have to worry about the rest of your board getting swept up. It makes something like Nala, the new Nala, even stronger now, right? Before we had to worry about a fast ramp into little Sisu, slow you down one turn, big Sisu, and another turn or two, in between maybe a Maui hero to all to break things up. That is pretty effective at disincentivizing aggressive decks. But now there is kind of no card that gets you so far back into a game that you're way behind in. Now it kind of makes a controlling deck much less viable in the current metagame.
Yeah, 100%. We don't have, even like in purple, we don't have crabs and foxes anymore to help take care of it.
Right. Those small catch-up cards outside of really Strength of a Raging Fire have all been removed. We've seen some replacements. We have Yelana, which is definitely no crab, I would say. And we also have the new Lilo for Steel. Again, Steel just getting all the goodies in Fabled. But these catch-up cards and the lack thereof mean that the aggressive decks do have the ability to stay ahead.
Yeah, but it's still crazy. Like with Lilo and with the Alana, they pump 2 instead of 3. And it feels like we've really felt that in testing.
Yes.
So, like, we're being forced to play cards like Rafiki and Captain Hook in order to get to that 5 that I think is kind of the sweet spot you want to be able to get to when challenging.
All of our decisions so far, and by our, I mean even the collective, what we've seen from deck lists online and people who are sharing their ideas, are all generally predicated on being able to deal with that kind of second turn shift Rhino line. So we've also seen an uptick in things like Palace Guard and Hypnotic Strength to be able to immediately boost that card up to, or not Palace Guard, Royal Guard, the one that gets a bigger challenger every time you draw a card. That's Royal Guard. Palace Guard's the Vanish card. Royal Guard gets that pump every time you draw a card. So you draw for turn, draw off the hypnotic strength, and then it gets challenger 2. So now all of a sudden we have this 1 base strength and then 2 from cards, 2 from the card itself giving challenger. It's big enough to take out a Rhino in one swing.
Yeah.
So all of these choices, whether it's Rafiki into, we were testing Rafiki into Merryweather in Emerald Amethyst. And all of these play patterns, I've been testing Emerald Steel and playing Hook into Merryweather to be able to, early on, be able to get up to 4 and 5, which are the critical numbers. So we need to hit Daisy Duck and we need to hit Rhino.
Yep.
These are very key pieces of the puzzle. The Tiana thing definitely can be troublesome.
Yeah, I think you just need that hard removal in some form for Tiana.
Yes. If you can answer the Tiana, if you can break up the line, you have a shot at being all right. The problem is the following turn, they can just play Lady and then use Lady to drop a dock, and you're just right back into the pressure cooker. This deck's very good at quickly getting up to 12 lore or so, and then being able to close out the game through 2 to 3 characters questing. It's very, very oppressive. And amongst the ripple effects that we're talking about, and we're just talking mostly about Amber Steel right now, right? One of the ripple effects we're seeing is that you can leave your characters upright now for much longer periods of time. You can do the, quote, play a couple things and chill strategy, which was something that we saw early. I think everybody came to this revelation early in their game playing, specifically of Lorcana. So what you're saying is you can just play characters, never quest until you can count to 20 and then quest with everything. How am I supposed to stop you?
Right.
Which is the importance of something like an unconditional board wipe or spot removal or things that can force interaction with your opponent's cards. And we're really lacking on the strength of a lot of those particular types of interactive cards.
Yeah.
So that big ripple effect is being felt, and we'll get more into that in a second. The other ripple effect is a card like Daisy Duck, Donald's Date, has actually become a bit more of a double-edged sword, because now the Daisy Duck trigger is netting legitimate card advantage.
Yeah.
Before, we were heavier in non-creature cards, which oftentimes resulted in her just tucking. And also, the card draw didn't matter as much because there was so much of it available. The other thing that we didn't get a whole lot of is very obvious and simple to access card advantage engines. Things like Friends on the Other Side, Sam's favorite. We also haven't seen anything that really easily draws us more than one card. Like, some of the best card draw right now is like the Genie.
Finders Keepers.
Finders Keepers is one of the only cards, but it's all the way on turn 5. And when we're talking about a world where this other aggro deck can win on turn 5, we probably don't want to spend our entire turn 5 drawing 3 cards.
And like pull the lever, but it's, again, really hard to play that.
And it's restricted to a very specific color combination.
Yep. But when you're trying to take care of all the aggro deck is throwing at you and you take a turn 3 off to draw 2 cards, you're probably not winning.
Right. So when I've been testing a lot of Blurple, and one of the things that you learn very quickly in Blurple is the very last 2 quester you want to remove from the opponent's board is Daisy Duck. Mm-hmm. Because Daisy Duck is just keeping your hand full of Elsas and Bells and Hades and all the things that the aggro decks do not want you to have at your disposal. You get to reap the benefit of just adding all of that into your hand, which is lovely. So you tend to do that last. You can ink your Finders Keepers because you're like, you know what? I'm going to get 2 to 3 cards. I'm going to get Finders Keepers off probably just in Daisy triggers. And that's okay. So that is kind of this ripple effect that's coming out as a result of there being no unconditional board wipe being felt, throughout the meta at this point. So that has shifted to, okay, if that's the worst deck, as we alluded to, what's going to beat the worst deck? We also went over this on our brewing episode, and it's kind of landed in the world of purple, steel, amethyst, steel being the color combination that has come to answer that call. It's a deck that's always been able to be the aggressor and also be able to play the control role for as long as it needs to do so in order to finish taking over the game. We've seen versions of it that have ranged from very aggressively built around Doc all the way to not playing Doc whatsoever and going back to the old Mim Rabbit engines to draw cards. So we've seen a variety of Amethyst Steel and how they choose to get ahead or catch up from behind in the metagame. And I think that it's put itself in a position where it's still very good. It's now has the best removal in the game. It has some of the best card advantage left available to everyone. And it has the best ability to win out of nowhere with things like Giant Cobra, still has access to White Rose, still has access to cards like Honey Marin.
Yep.
It's the ability to just explode, add units to the board, and this is the hallmark of it. Like, this is kind of the thesis statement of what Sam and I and our team has noticed, and I think everybody's starting to really catch up with when it comes to this current meta. The trick is to be able to try to add something to the board while netting and extracting some value out of it at the same time. This is probably the most obvious, while quite obvious in Purple Steel, the Amethyst Steel decks, also obvious in Blurple as well, that any card that can come down, do a thing, and still remain on the board after it's done that thing, especially if it is interact with an opponent's card, is insanely good right now. Yeah. Even the Yolanas and the Lilos of the world are super good because you're putting down either a 2/2 that quests for 1 and has another effect if it does quest, or you're putting out a 2/3/2 that's left over after you have given another character a buff and hopefully taken out an opposing character. So you're going up a card and they are going down a card. If you can put a card into play that brings you up a card statically brings you up a card and the opponent go down a card, that is a very powerful Lorcana card right now. And it's the reason why Blurple is seeing a lot of early hype. It lost very few critical pieces, and Blurple's always been the deck that puts down a character that has some sort of board impact in order for the Blurple deck to stay ahead on tempo. So some pretty obvious options. Sam, what are some of the Blurple toolbox cards that we're talking about here?
We have Hades,
Infernal Schemer.
like one of the best.
Getting
one of
a
the best
sick
removals.
enchanted, by the way.
Yeah, just because it just flat out removes anything.
Yes. And you can't get it back. Can't re-interact with it.
We have
great.
Bell, which has been really good, especially since there's a lot of challenging right now.
Getting a sick enchanted, by the way.
Again, yep. This deck can just be enchanted it out.
This, oh.
Into the unknown, we have an enchanted.
Right. Finders Keepers is an enchanted. Like, this
Yeah.
deck is just mono enchanted, right?
So I think also another thing that some people are playing in the Blurple decks is the Scrooge McDuck, the 5/5 for 4, because that can just come down and beat on the aggro decks.
Right. One of the few cards that doesn't immediately have a board impact. Obviously, Elsa Fifth Spirit plays really well after you played a Scrooge on turn 3, playing Elsa on turn 4 and answering basically anything with Scrooge. Taking out a Rhino and Scrooge survives.
Yeah.
Is hugely impactful. Now the opponent has to go, okay, am I going to sacrifice my Penny or my Daisy Duck to take this Scrooge off the board before the next turn play? Is Belle Accomplished Mystic and she just aces my Nala? So really rough positions that decks get put in because the Blurple deck, everything, it's and a body that quests for 2, and a body that has evasive and quests, and is a body that draws infinity cards. Dumbo. So it is a force to be reckoned with. So I really would say that kind of boils down to the whole point. You're putting down a body that is as resilient as possible. If you're aggressive, you want to put down multiple cards that are as sticky to the board as possible. Cards like Daisy Duck, the new Nala, cards like Tiana make everything stick. That's why you're seeing this upsurge in Tiana so much. The aggro deck wants sticky cards to quest. If you can get 2 quests off with some of your very small statted characters, that's very bad for your opponent. You're probably winning that game. And all the other decks are looking for cards that come in and do something and add a body to the board. Even Doc, Bold Knight, is a great example of a good enough card in a lot of cases. It can sing Heffalumps and Woozles, which gives it the ability to take down an Iago if you're playing against a Blurple opponent. It gives you the ability to quest for 1. It gives you 2 cards just full stop, which is one of the very few cards right now in Lorcana that's giving you more than net 1 card, right? Most cards are even. Heffalumps and Woozles, Genie, things like that are even. Doc is not. Doc is card positive. So you are immediately extracting so much value from that card. And that's why these cards, you see them. So if you're looking at current lists or ideas people have, they're going so far to get these. The new Max Goof that costs 3 and you can pay 1 more to get back a song immediately gives you a card and gives you a singer for that card the next turn if you need it in a lot of cases because it can only do 3 or less. So you're seeing these cards, and I was testing the Emerald Steel deck for the purpose of how many times can I fire off 1 single strength to turn 1 strength into 3 or 4 strengths over the course of a game, because with both maxes in the deck, you're running that many more copies of Strength of a Raging Fire. And if it is by far the best removal spell in the format, I want to try to recycle that card and play it as many times as I am allowed to do so during a game.
Yeah, it can be super powerful.
Very strong card indeed. And that also let me leverage some of the discard cards, right? Things like Chip, Quick Thinker. That is something that comes down and immediately extracts value. I cannot tell you the number of docs I've had my opponent discard during testing. It's been crazy good. On top of that, I have a 3-hit body, which is great. Gets pumped up by Merryweather and can clear out that Rhino. And it also can sing just about any song I need it to. So it's a very, very good flexible card. It's something as simple as that card's fine. Like on its own, you would never play that card, right? Like without Prince John, you wouldn't be really thinking about playing that card. But now that card is very good. If I can play Ursula, sudden chill you with the Ursula singing, play a random, like a Pete, so you can't play an action, I freeze it in your hand and then make you discard it with Chip, I'm so far ahead now because I've extracted value from every single card along the way. And that, I think, is the hallmark of what these mid-range decks are trying to do. So it's basically, if you're in a mid-range v mid-range fight, who can extract more value? And that's why the Blurple deck tends to rise up as the king of the mid-range. If there was a good control deck, and we've seen this in the past, right? Like the DKP lists and the other Ruby Sapphire lists, they hold Blurple down because they go, you can play all the genies you want. I'm going to play a little Sisu. You can add to the board all you want after that, and I'm going to wipe the board.
Right.
And it just makes Blurple go, well, I've invested so much ink into these things, and I'm just losing it now as my opponent 4-for-1s me with a Be Prepared. I can't come back from that. Now there isn't any of that. So the nickel and dimey kind of bigger statted comes in and does a thing card are really, really good. And there's nothing that punishes you for playing. It's like, okay, you want Under the Sea, you get my Elsa and my Genie. I still have Hades out. I still have Iago out. I still have Scrooge McDuck out. I still have a number of things. I have Dumbo out, for goodness sake. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. So it's a really different meta that we're seeing. And it's basically an aggressive deck or the kind of shades of mid-range, and we've seen this rock, paper, scissors meta start to evolve, where it really feels like the cards rising to the top. Amethyst Steel, Amber Steel, and the Blurple deck, and they all fight each other pretty effectively.
Yeah.
So a lot of things still to test. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of the Emerald Steel deck. I'm really impressed with how cool, I don't know if it's good, but how cool some of these Blue Steel decks are. These Sapphire Steel Allies builds that are ramping with shifting Jasmines and pleakling your own Jasmine so you can get Scar down and then support Alice and draw like 18 cards in one turn off a Tipo or something. It's nuts.
Yeah. I've been really liking the Flinger Dingers. I don't think it's like tournament ready to play yet, but I think it's really cool and it does really well against the aggro decks.
Absolutely. We've been testing a lot of decks with Ruby in them, and they're all kind of doing, unfortunately, what Ruby's been set up to do and fall a little short. Only so many Sisus and B-Kings you can play. They're all uninkable. It's really a rough time if you're a Ruby aficionado to have to play with Ruby, because as good as and as cool as Powerline is, until it gets a tool in color that makes it worth it, I think it's going to remain a cool card that, I mean, I really want. It's awesome. It's Goofy Movie. I'm 100% in. But finding a home for it in a competitive space is difficult. So I think this is definitely a fragile format early on, and I do think it's very easy for a deck to come together that's very cohesive and very consistent and easily take the throne as one of the top decks in the format. Obviously, we have 3 decks that have kind of started to rise up, and we see, I don't think anything is out of the question. We've said this all the time on the podcast, but the deck to play early is the one that suits your play pattern well and one you're comfortable with, and the one you'll make the least mistakes playing, because you're not going to be answering everything because so much is viable right now just because of the way the meta has shifted. So as you build decks, as you test, really keep in mind the concepts here and the way we've watched the meta evolve, the strategies. Don't be afraid to put a couple damage on a Daisy Duck. There's no Rapunzel anymore. Don't be afraid to leave your units upright, even though you're playing aggressive decks and you really just want to, you're so afraid that your character is going to go down. There's just not ways for people to get more than about a 1-for-1 trade with any interaction. As good as strength is, it's still 1 card for 1 card. Mm-hmm. So if you look at all these things very closely and you try your absolute best, you might just be able to find a way to
keep questing.